Good morning, and welcome to the Christabelle Spiritualist Church here in beautiful Cherry Valley, Illinois. It's actually good to see a few people back here today. It's nice to be back to in-person services. I don't know if anybody else is excited about it, but I am extremely excited that we're here today. Now, before I go any further, if I could ask for all of you to please shut off any of your electronic devices, or at least put them on vibrate. Now, of course, due to the COVID situation, we are doing a little bit of social distancing and that kind of thing. So I do appreciate that you have all met nicely socially distanced there. And because we are so far apart, if you would like to choose to take your mask off, feel free to. Now, because of COVID, again, we will not be singing today, but we will be playing the hymns, so feel free to follow along in your hymnals. And without further ado, I will give you our announcements, of which we do have plenty of announcements today because we have not been back here since October. And so it's hard to believe it's been that long, actually. But if you could, please, visit our Facebook page as well as our church website for all of our upcoming events. We have some coming up now. We also have our church's YouTube channel that if you would like to follow our church on YouTube or on Facebook, feel free to look us up and find us. Wednesday, which is coming up in 4 days, 3 days, whatever that is, February 10th, we're going to be having our Wednesday evening Spirit greeting, which is everyone in attendance receives a reading, and it's $20 per person, and we start at 6:30 p.m. and we go until everybody's had a reading. And those are a lot of fun. Those are just kind of a fun night that we make sure everybody gets a message from Spirit. Until we are able to begin our pre-church healing service, which is hopefully in March, we're going to be having a bit of an abbreviated healing portion to our church service, which I'll kind of go into a little bit more. And we're not necessarily doing any hands-on healing yet. Also, please note that on February 28th, after our church services, I'm going to be having an orientation for anyone who wishes to do any work on the platform here. Now, that will include anyone who provides sermons or spirit greetings or does the chairperson position. This also includes anyone who is interested in performing any pre-church healing service. This is mandatory for anyone who wishes to represent the church in a public capacity. Even if you've already worked the platform in the past, I really do feel that it is an important reminder for all of us, especially since we haven't been up here for a while. It's always good to have a refresher on platform etiquette. March 7th, after our healing service concludes, I will be conducting a workshop on the Spiritualist healing method. This is also necessary for anyone who is interested in performing Spiritualist healing during our pre-church healing service. So we are asking that anyone who is interested in volunteering their time for healing to please come and talk to me after church anytime before March 7th. But again, that will be another after church little workshop that I'm going to do to make sure that everybody understands how to do the process. In the next few weeks, we are also going to be discussing starting a pre-church adult lyceum service at least once a month, if not, every week. And I do think we have someone who might be interested in leading that, but we have to kind of get some of the details hammered out first. And we are always welcoming volunteers to help out, not only on Sundays, but to help clean up the grounds, to help with anything going around, to help keep our chapel looking fresh, looking clean. And we can use all the help we can get. So anybody who wants to volunteer, feel free. And finally, in my announcements, it is with a heavy heart that I must announce the sudden transition to Spirit on Monday of our Christabelle family member, Doug Riley. Doug was quite a behind-the-scenes fixture here at the chapel, and he helped quite a bit with the maintenance, the upkeep of the grounds, and all that sort of thing. His smile and his singular wit, they will be missed around here, but I know he'll be visiting us in spirit. So please send healing to his family, that they find peace during this difficult time. And now I will be going into the reading of our invocation. If you could all please bow your heads, and for our virtual congregation members in your virtual congregation location, please bow your heads virtually. And I shall begin. Infinite intelligence, we direct our thoughts in this hour we are together, asking that your spirit permeate our souls with love, harmony, peace, and joy of communing with like-minded people. We ask that our service be blessed with only the highest of knowledge, and that it be given in accordance with our understanding, so that we may continue to go forward and use spiritualism's teachings in our daily lives. Amen. And now for the reading of our Declaration of Principles. If you could all please turn your hymnals to the front inside cover. And if you'd like to join me in reading the Declaration of Principles, feel free. We believe in infinite intelligence. We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. We affirm that a correct understanding of such expression and living in accordance therewith constitute true religion. We affirm that the existence and personal identity of the individual continue after the change called death. We affirm that communication with the so-called dead is a fact, scientifically proven by the phenomena of spiritualism. We believe that the highest morality is contained within the Golden Rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I personally like that one. We affirm the moral responsibility of individuals, and that we make our own happiness or unhappiness as we obey or disobey nature's physical and spiritual laws. We affirm that the doorway to reformation is never closed against any soul here or hereafter. We affirm that the precepts of prophecy and healing are divine attributes proven through mediumship. Apologies, everyone, if I spoke those a little bit quickly. I'm so used to doing these by myself up here that I got to get back into the habit of reading with others. Okay. Now, pardon me while I switch pages here. Now, typically at this time, we would be conducting our main healing service where we would have the laying on of hands and all that. But as I said during the announcements, right now we cannot be doing hands-on healing just yet. But in the next month or two, we are going to be having our pre-church healing services starting. So we're going to be starting to have, moving forward, a more abridged healing service. And I'm going to begin that by reading from our healing list. And today we don't really have a very big list. We just have a few people. And if you could please, while I am saying the names from the healing list, if you could keep these people in your mind and your thoughts and to send them healing while I am reading their names off, I would appreciate that. Oh, and after I finish saying a few names, if there's anybody who has any healing, anyone that they feel needs healing that they would like to add to that list, if you could please just say it out loud, just say the first name, and we'll add them to our list. Kate, Doug, Barb, Dale, the Spicer family, Deb, Mark. Does anyone else have any other names that they'd like to add? Okay. At this time, we will be playing our healing hymn. And instead of choosing something from our Spiritualist hymnal, I've actually chosen something that I think, honestly, for the weather today, is kind of fitting for what we've been going through this year. So if you could please just remain seated, we will now listen to our healing hymn, which is actually Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. I do have to laugh. I found it very amusing because we have a full house of I'll just call them Spirit congregation members that are also kind of watching my sermon here today and watching us up here. And apparently a few of them actually saw the Beatles in person, and we're very excited that we chose this song for today's healing hymn. So you are very welcome, everybody out there. Now, if you could please join me in concluding the healing portion of our church service. Apologies, I got a little bit tongue-tied there. By reading aloud the prayer for spiritual healing, and that can be found in the back cover of your hymnal. Ready? I ask the great unseen healing force to remove all obstructions from my mind and body, and to restore me to perfect health. I ask this in all sincerity and honesty, and I will do my part. I ask this great unseen healing force to help both present and absent ones who are in need of help, and to restore them to perfect health. I put my trust in the love and power of God. Amen. Now, our sermon today will be presented by our student pastor, Mark Dorset, so let's give him a warm Christabelle welcome. Hi, everybody. It's great to be up here this morning. It's good to see you all here after such a long time that we've had off. Now, I'm actually going to begin my sermon today, not with a poem. I know you're all shocked by that, but not with a poem, but with a parable. This is a story that actually happens to appear to have originated with the Cherokee tribe of Native American Indians. Our parable begins with a grandfather who is talking to his grandson. I have a fight going on in me, the old man said. It's taking place between two wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. There's a whole lot going on with that wolf. The grandfather looked at the grandson and continued. The other embodies emotions, positive emotions. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. Both wolves are fighting to the death. The same fight is going on inside of you and inside of every other person too. The grandson took a moment to reflect on this, and at last he looked up at the grandfather and said, "Which wolf will win?" The old man gave a simple reply, "The one you feed." Now, I'm curious, just out of curiosity here, can I get a show of hands of all of us that are present? How many of you have heard that parable before? Kind of had a feeling, pretty much everybody. Okay. It's interesting, we had a few of our spirit members who hadn't, but I'm glad I could share that with them. Now, this is a story that really kind of does do an exceptional job of explaining that we all have a choice in our lives. I mean, it can be a difficult story to hear sometimes, but it really does tie into very much how we as spiritualists see the world. In truth, so many of our Native American traditions, they really do also tie into our spiritualist understanding of how we live, day by day, moment by moment. We are all the battleground of these two wolves. So, which wolf are you feeding? Are you feeding the angry, envious, greedy, and self-piteous wolf? Or, be honest with yourselves. Are you feeding the life of fear and pain, or are you actively feeding your joyful, courageous, peaceful, loving wolf? I see a few of those, the look. You know that look I'm talking about. You know that what you talk about, Mr. Pastor Man kind of look? Yeah, that look right there. It seems like, a few of you may not always be thrilled that I've asked that question, and I know that it is a difficult thing to talk about, but it is so necessary, and it is important for me to bring this up to all of you today. Why would that be? Because Spirit asked me to. This is a sermon that has actually been percolating in my mind for the last several months, literally, but I was not allowed to present it before today. Now, if you ask me why I wasn't allowed to present this sermon before today, go ahead, ask why.
Why?
Well, okay, since you asked me so nicely, I suppose I'll tell you. Because as it was explained to me by Spirit, we were not ready to hear this sermon just yet. It does make sense, actually. I mean, it really does, because if you look at how my other sermons have all kind of dovetailed together, it really does fill in certain themes at certain times. And apparently this would be the next theme for me to discuss. And it really does, like I said, it does dovetail very nicely into the others. So going back to the analogy from our parable, which wolf are you feeding? And actually, I have to be honest, that was kind of a trick question, because if we are being truly honest and self-aware, we are generally feeding both wolves at the same time. And, if you think about that for a minute, we might not be trying to feed the negative wolf inside of us, but we are only human after all. I mean, except for those of us who are extraterrestrials wearing a human suit, we are all living this life with our own fears, expectations, disappointments, etc. It's all part of life on Earth. Life is not meant to be entirely positive. It is meant to be an experience that we all go through in order to help ourselves to grow and evolve into better, stronger, happier people. Quite often, the way for us to do that, for us to learn and grow in that way, it's through adversity. Nobody wants to hear that, but it is the truth. When we are going through things that are difficult, we may not always recognize that we are feeding that wolf of negativity. So, how do we recognize which wolf we're feeding? Excellent question. You have to recognize just how you are feeling in that moment. Are you feeling strong? Are you feeling courageous? Are you feeling hopeful? Are you feeling, self-actualized? Anybody else remember that term from last week? Or are you having your own, pity, party of one? Are you angry, frustrated, disempowered, and weak feeling? I mean, really, it can be very easy to let yourself feed that negative wolf. Now, and that is not to say that this wolf is naturally the stronger of the two. It's not. It's not at all. It is just a more aggressive one. If you look at your wolves as each being representative of a different part of yourself, you can kind of think of it this way. The negative wolf represents the ego. The ego wolf is, it's all about me. What about my needs? What about my wants? That's where the negative wolf is. Now, it's good to have a developed enough sense of ego to engage in self-care and to have healthy, appropriate boundaries. However, if you feed your ego too much, no matter how much you feed it, you're going to find that it's never enough. Kind of much like with our physical bodies where, it's much easier to feed it just enough to keep it healthy. But if you feed it too much, it's a lot more difficult to put it on a diet so that you could kind of, especially after you've overfed it for a period of time, to put it back in check. So you always want to be very diligent not to spend too much time feeding that wolf of negativity, not feeding the ego. The wolf that embodies the positive side of ourselves, that represents what I call the Wego. I mean, after all, it's all about the Wego. Anyone else remember that, sir?
Yep.
Hey, all right. People are awake for that. All right, I'm happy. Now, the Wego wolf is all about the knowledge that there is more to this world than just us, than just you or just me. We're all in it together. It's all about the Wego. This wolf will not be acting out to get attention like the ego will. The Wego is much, much more calm, collected, patient, at ease. One of the biggest challenges we all have in life is to remember, well, that this wolf is not begging for attention the way that the ego will. The Wego is actually the wolf we want to spend the most time with and paying the most attention to. So, okay, now that we've named our wolves, let's kind of talk about how we can get them to coexist within us. First, we must acknowledge that each wolf exists, albeit metaphorically, within each of us. The ego will continue to do whatever it can to monopolize your time and energy. It's up to you to do what you can to tame your ego. And honestly, much like training any kind of canine, even in the physical world, it's going to take time and focus to keep your ego in line. And remember, this is so important. It is not enough to ignore your ego. That's actually another way in which you feed it. You have to acknowledge those feelings that the ego wants you to feel, even if you choose not to feed into those feelings. Everyone experiences what I always just term as those lower vibrational feelings, but it's how we choose to deal with those feelings that is the most important. Don't feed your ego by wallowing in those feelings of fear and frustration, of worry, of weakness, etc., 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 etc. Allow yourself to feel them without letting yourself be overwhelmed. Then, that's where you need to start interviewing yourself. And I know I've talked about that before, but it is such an important process. Interview yourself to understand the meaning behind those feelings. Why are you feeling that way? When you're finished with that, then you allow yourself to move on from those feelings and from those emotions. And that is the process for how you keep your ego wolf well-trained and under control. Now, okay, so what about the Wego wolf? I just like saying that, the Wego. How do we feed our Wego? You ready? This one is so simple that we actually ourselves, we make it difficult. Unlike the ego, the Wego is actually a very low maintenance waya. For those who are not aware, that's actually the Cherokee term for a wolf is a waya. Care and feeding of the Wego really boils down to just a few basic components. First and foremost, you train your Wego wolf by always looking for the positives. Feed it love, joy, courage, and hope. I mean, after all, there's always, always, always something to be thankful for. And also I know it isn't necessarily an easy thing to do, but you must always do your best to try and find the silver lining of a situation where you can. Now, the final way to feed your ego, the final way to feed your Wego is a way that, quite honestly, it's a word that most people cringe when I say, but brace yourselves, everybody. The best way to feed your Wego is through meditation. I know. Insert eye roll here, but it really is true. I mean, I've mentioned this in previous sermons and in every workshop that I've ever given, but there are no shortcuts to becoming a better, stronger, happier person. You don't need to meditate for an hour or more a day while sitting in the lotus position and, chanting. You don't have to. For some people, that works. But for people like me with, and I'm going to borrow my lovely wife Deb's term of squirrel brain. For those of us with squirrel brain like myself, I can only meditate for a couple of minutes at a time before my mind is just gone. So for me, and for a lot of you, with the amount of time that you have, all you need to do is just sit down and kind of meditate for a couple of minutes every day. But the key is consistency. Try and find the same time every day, which I know is easier said than done, but even if you do it right before you go to bed, it's a great way to unwind. But just sit down and close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and just kind of focus on relaxing, focus on your breathing. And you will find that that is actually the best way to raise your vibration. Now, so what does that mean? What does it mean to raise your vibration? That's something we hear a lot in spiritualist churches. Essentially, raising your vibration means becoming more self-aware. Learning to understand your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, helping you to remain cool, calm, and collected. In other words, to be water. Now, okay, back to meditation for just a second. Like I said, it really doesn't take a lot of time unless you choose to allow it to, but it is absolutely, utterly, and totally worth the effort. It really is. You will find that just by consistently focusing on meditation, that you are feeding your Wego in the most healthy, nutritious way possible. So, now just out of curiosity, I'm going to get one more show of hands out of here from everybody. How many of you out here today, and even those of you in virtual congregation land, feel free to, join in. How many of you out there have a difficult time remaining, relentlessly positive? I know it can be a challenge for me at times. This is actually where the spiritualist principles can help you out. No, really, seriously, they can. It all comes down to utilizing the principles of spiritualism to be your guide. Now, I do feel that all the principles are significant, obviously, because, I spent time reading them at the beginning of our service. But in this case, I really do think that principles 6, 7, and 8 really shine. Beginning with principle number 6, we're referring to the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I really think that is a wonderful statement. But I also think that at first, that statement should extend to you and to me. Each of you out there, each of us, we have to treat ourselves the way that we want others to treat us. Do you understand what I'm saying by that? Because I think that's something that a lot of people kind of miss when we talk about the golden rule, is we're important too. You're important, you're important, you're important, I'm important. It's something to remember. Another thing, as an extension of that, I do love the idea of principle number 6 and treating others the way that I would like to be treated. However, I can guarantee that not everyone wants to be treated exactly the same way. So, because I can tell you right now, the way that I like to be treated is not the way that other people like to be treated. So, instead, my suggestion as you go forth is to treat everyone with respect, with dignity, and to, try not to be too harsh just for the sake of it. Which kind of leads me on to principle number 7. It's one thing to try and treat people with respect and to treat them with politeness. It's another to be an evil enabler. And that's where principle number 7 comes in. We make our own happiness or unhappiness and, the rest, right? Free will. It is up to us to decide which of those wolves we're going to feed. Are we choosing to feed our ego or are we feeding our Wego? And it really does make all the difference. Now, finally, on to principle number 8, in plain language, it says that every day is a new beginning. We make the choices to start fresh whenever and wherever we are in life. As your wolves would say, wherever you go, whatever you do, we're gonna do it together. So, they're with you all the time. Always remember that you have to pay attention to which wolf you're feeding. You have to feed your Wego love, peace, kindness, courage, and hope. And if you are having trouble taming your ego, also feeding your Wego, never forget that you are not alone. Not only do you have your own loved ones, spirit guides, angels, and infinite intelligence to guide you, you have all of us here at the Christabelle Spiritualist Church. We are here for you. I'm here for you. You are not alone. You are never alone unless you choose to be. Let us help you. Turn your face to the light of spiritualism and the light of spiritualist truth, spiritualist healing, spiritualist joy. Go forth this week. Be hopeful. Be helpful. Be strong, feed your Wego, and live the light of spiritualist truth. Thank you.